Right. Hi. All right, so we are live. Hi, guys. I'm just going to bring in Jackie. We're waiting for Jackie to join. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Hello.
Hi. I'm inside this time.
Oh, we don't get to see the beautiful, greenery all around you.
No, they were mowing the lawn next door and I was like, I don't want to put
Way
everybody
too
through
loud.
that. If I put my phone this way, just no, that makes me
No,
sideways. Okay,
that
no.
does make you sideways. All right. Yeah, so
Maybe it doesn't.
first of all, this month, I don't get to join you with a cup of coffee. It is Ramadan. I have my invisible cup, so you enjoy your coffee if you do have it. For those that are celebrating Ramadan, Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem,
Yeah,
I
Ramadan
really hope
Mubarak.
that you guys are enjoying this month. It is also um, Earth Day,
Yeah.
which is a very important day. Actually, my kids are upstairs doing something related to the earth, and my daughter was like, "Did you know it's Earth Day?" I was like,
Oh,
"Yes, I did." She's like, "We have to clean up the earth." I'm like, "Yes, we do." But for Earth Day, I just wanted to kind of say a few points before we kind of dive right into our topic, which is a little bit about switching and reducing our consumption of plastic. And we've heard and seen incredible businesses that have launched plasticless options, from shampoo and conditioner to shampoo and conditioner bars, but also switching, and for us particularly, switching to bar soap, and then using alternatives to what you may already be using on a day-to-day basis. So I did want to do, and this is my quick little commercial in the midst of this live, but I did want to just show you really quickly our Millie box, which I think is a really great example because it's just so beautiful, and it's in collaboration with our beautiful partners at Millie. But what's in this box are things that are totally just really great. One is our loofah, which is 100% compostable, biodegradable. You can literally, it's actually made from real loofah
loofah.
plants.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually made from a real plant, so there's zero plastic in it. And then when you're done using it, and that's after a couple of months, we actually have a few blog articles on how to use it, how to take care of it, how to clean it. But when you're done using it, you can just bury it in your backyard or put it in your compost bin, and you're good to go. Second thing is our wooden soap dish, which helps preserve your soap to last longer. So it's not finishing a lot faster. These are 100% handmade by our partners at the Rehabilitation Center at the Jewish Refugee Camp. And of course, our signature olive oil soap bars. And the great thing with the soap bars is you are saving, I think a statistic I saw was 20 times more energy by switching to a bar of soap rather than liquid soap, because it also costs a lot more carbon footprint to transport and ship liquid soap, because it just weighs a lot more. It's literally 80% water.
Well,
Um,
and you're also eliminating the whole plastic container net need. So that's a
yeah.
great thing about it too.
And then, in order to really make use of this box, once you have consumed the items inside, you can actually remove this part and completely remove it, completely remove all the products, and then use this as a keepsake box that you can put your old birthday card letters, things, maybe even jewelry or things that you want to keep. It is a beautiful box to keep. I wouldn't be throwing this out at all. But it's definitely something that can be reused. It has a great magnetic flap, and it's just something nice to kind of keep around. So just a tip for Earth Day, and also kind of noting opportunities for you to alternate some of the plastic consumption you're already using at home with loofahs, with the wooden soap dish, with the bar soap, all available on our website. So you can
Yeah.
check that out.
If you also are so inclined to get a gift for your mother for Mother's Day, this is a great Mother's Day gift. And I also just got it from my sister for her birthday, and she loved it. She was like she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is even better than it looks like in the picture." And I was like, "Yeah."
That's so cute.
So you guys should definitely go for one if you haven't yet. There's limited in quantity too. We worked with Millie on this limited edition
Oh,
box.
Michelle is there. She's like, yes, I did.
Oh yeah, I see her. Yeah, so we worked with Millie on this limited edition box. We were really fortunate to have them partner with us, and just so you know, it's a great storytelling gift too. I mean, there's literally a story inside of the box showing the impact of each box for women's
I'll open it
education.
and show you. So like the
Yeah.
person receiving the box will be able to read a little bit about like, our story, a little bit about Millie's story, but also that proceeds from this is helping support our partner organization in Jordan, Hopes for Women in Education, that helps provide higher education scholarships to refugees. So it's a great initiative and just such a beautiful box. Like I love it. Definitely a keepsake, 100%. But so for today's episode, Jackie, do you want to tell us what we're talking about today?
Yeah. So I just want to remind everybody, if you can stick around for the end of this episode today, we have a big announcement. If you can't stick around, come back because
we'll be saving this later on for people.
Yeah. So we have a big announcement we're really excited to share with you. And there's also another special giveaway happening aside, like attached to this announcement. So be on the lookout for that. And also today is a conversation about women entrepreneurs, and it's more, I mean, there's a lot of statistics out there. We're going to share some with you later today. But we also want to kind of put a disclaimer here that this conversation is, it's Nora and I's experience. There are lots of women entrepreneurs out there who have different experiences than us. And we understand that everybody's experience is different, depending on where they are socioeconomically, what kind of business sector they're in. So just like putting that out there, this is based on our experiences. We have some statistics to share with you, but just saying that. And we also have a very special blog series that we've had published in the past few weeks. So check that out if you can. Oh, Millie's here. I think it's Chelsea. I don't know who. We have a really amazing blog series that we've been publishing for the past few weeks on women-owned business stories.
So if you haven't already, check out in our blog, you could actually check out each one of those brand stories and take a moment to actually check out the brand itself, right? Like these are just awesome businesses and behind them are awesome women, right?
Yeah, I mean, we chose these women-owned businesses specifically because they come from various backgrounds, they come from various experiences, but at the end of the day, they've been incredibly ambitious and determined, regardless of the barriers to entry that exist in the business world for them. So it's really it's just a great series to read through, and it's not super long, so you can read through it in a few minutes and just get a lot of takeaways from it. And then again, like, I just want to kind of bring everybody to where we are today. This series was started, Nora and I began this series last month, but really conceptualized it before that when we realized that it had been almost a year since the pandemic had happened. And we were like just incredibly, I mean, I think for lack of a better word, you just feel incredibly lonely a lot of the times. You're a woman in business, yeah, but you're also just kind of sitting at home in your bubble, and you're trying to work with your team across the world, across the country, whatever it is, and you don't really have time to just sit and talk about these things. There's really, like, time is so precious. There's a sense of urgency every single day, and so we wanted these like monthly opportunities. Really, they're just maybe an opportunity for Nora and I to talk instead of like, okay, what do we have to do today? But really, we just wanted to sit down and have a cup of coffee and chill and kind of get to the meat of some of the things that sit on our minds every month. Really, I just want to share some statistics with everyone first before we get started with the conversation, just to set the mood here. And these statistics are through We Connect International, just to let everyone know. They're published online as well. We'll share a link to those stats. There's a great infographic that includes them and much more online. So we'll post that.
Yeah, and also I just want to know, Sitti is also a We Connect member. We are a women-owned certified company that is also linked to WeBank. So, and we're very proud of that. And it really kind of is part of this greater network of women-owned founders. So we are just kind of sharing some of the data that they had collected. They ran a large nationwide survey.
It was actually it was international actually.
Oh, it was an international.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to share some numbers.
Yeah. So these numbers are based on January through March of 2020. So they were collected among a sample size of women around the world, women-owned businesses, but actually all small businesses as well. And the women-owned businesses they surveyed, 43% reported losing customers as face-to-face business went digital. Again, this is just the impact on the businesses themselves, but then you also have impact on employees. So furthermore, impact on businesses. You had 34% had an increased level of anxiety about the situation and how it's kind of reduced their productivity, time being able to spend on the business. This is something that Nora and I will speak to as well, like as we talk later on. But I mean, all these numbers kind of, I was reading through them, I was like, we talked about this every single day. In so many ways. 27% of employees couldn't work, and that caused a lot of delays in meeting the client's needs. And 31% reported an inability to source raw materials and inputs for products due to supply chain disruptions. We all know now that that number may be even higher because,
Yeah, I even remember like flights were being canceled last minute. Our shipments were being delayed for like no I would say available date in sight. Like we didn't know if we could even get products across the border. We were kind of like, it was definitely like, and I know a lot of people were experiencing the same thing. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. I mean, again, these are all things that I know a lot of people maybe listening in on have experienced themselves. 27% of women-owned businesses and women entrepreneurs experienced an increase in care and demands. And this is for everything from children in the household to elderly and other loved ones who, like needed caregiving. They had reduced time to spend on their business. This is not to say that people don't love their families and love to take care of them. I mean, Nora and I both love our families dearly, but we definitely experienced, and again, we'll talk about this more in detail, but we definitely experienced a heightened need to be there for our families at home because they're also going through a crisis, right? They're going through this trauma of the pandemic and all the changes in their lives. So as a woman in the household, a lot of times you're the one who's turned to for that emotional support. So
and
also,
I would say like keep it together, right? Like amidst, I know people with little ones, even harder. My kids' school, when it got canceled, we actually last year made a decision to just stop, not do online and just resort to like homeschooling for the rest of the year. And then this year we did online schooling, but the whole like on and off has caused such, I would say, mental distress to like my kids. I know my son repeatedly like has breakdowns because of his online classes, and I know a lot of kids are experiencing the same thing. And like this is not normal, but 100% when we're having to balance, like Jackie said, it's not that we don't want to be there for our kids, but it's like when you're trying to balance running your business, but also making sure that your kids are, not interrupting you every 30 seconds or like they're also okay at the end of the day. It just takes just a lot of out of us, right?
I was watching, I don't know if you've ever heard, there's this, segment, if anybody's heard of Marie TV, she's like this hilarious American personality, but she's also like a business kind of coach, and I listen to her segments sometimes because they're like the most entertaining thing in the world. And she has a podcast, and she just did an interview with a woman by the name of Terry Cole, who is a therapist, licensed therapist, but has also like worked with a lot of Fortune 500 CEOs and everything. And she calls it emotional labor. And I think that's really what it is like, she's like these little things, right? That by themselves are small, but when you add them up over the course of the day, they literally wear you out. And then you get to the end of the day and you're like, why am I so tired? I didn't, it's like I didn't go for a run, or I didn't do this, but it is emotional labor. And I think that's something to really keep in mind as we go through our days, especially in this time. Just a couple more things and then we'll kind of get to talking more, but the impact on businesses, even more so, 90% of women business owners, 90% saw a significant decrease in sales or revenue just between January through March 2020. 76% reported needing tax relief through delayed or canceled payments. These are all things that, again, like they take a toll on the business itself, but then they take a toll mentally on the women who are running those businesses. So again, we're going to share this it's a really beautifully made PDF infographic that we're going to share the link to on our link tree on Instagram after today. Just Olive Tree says hi, Nora.
Hi. One second. I'm being interrupted by my children. Of course I am. Hi, Jude.
You told me Miss Scott has number.
Okay, tell Papa to go help you right now.
Oh, Mommy's in the meeting.
Okay, go tell them right now.
No, what's the number?
Tell them.
No. So what's the first number?
I don't know. It's Miss Senwa's one.
Huh?
It's the same one as Miss Senwa.
So it's
513. Yeah. Yes, go.
Okay.
So, speaking of like being interrupted in the middle of a class, of course, my daughter doesn't know how to sign into her Zoom class and has to get some support. And clearly my husband's in a meeting. So this is the life of like, you can't have a live. This is the reality, guys. Like you just can't have a normal live without being interrupted by your kid at least 30 times.
And
right?
I mean, so let's talk a little bit about, I really do, hi Millie, they say hi.
Everybody say hi.
Yeah. So I just want to kind of get from you, Nora, and, let's talk a little bit about your personal experience, like talking very specifically about instances where we've obviously literally witnessed it. But talk about some of those challenging moments where the experience of being a woman entrepreneur with a family, and even just like aside from the family, you can speak to with or without kids, but like speak to some of those very specific moments where you felt that, like the challenges of it. And you can also, I think we should also talk about the benefits, obviously. But yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Listen, guys, I'm not going to talk about like the benefits of spending time together, like not commuting as much, and like, the quality time that you spend, because it's there. I think like Jackie mentioned, this emotional labor that happens over the course of the day, especially when we're like on demand, on call all the time, and where like a trip to the grocery store to get milk is like a breath of fresh air, right? Like that thing of like, nobody's asking me for a snack, or nobody's interrupting me, asking me 40 questions. And again, like I have little ones, and so it's very different. And my husband and I both work from home. And so it's this balancing act of like, we both have important work. And so when I have to schedule in a call, or he has to schedule something, he's always like, okay, I have this thing, I can't be interrupted. Or I'm like, I have this thing, I can't be interrupted. You hold the fort. And sometimes it's hard because like, there's a lot of times we'll schedule things at the same time, and like, we don't check with each other sometimes, like our schedules are really busy. But it's not to say that like one partner's work is more important than the other. It's just sometimes like what ends up happening is my kids are so used to asking me, or I think as the motherly role, like we'll step up and make sure, like whether it's classes, making sure, you know, their snacks are on the table, or like they're properly logged in, or they're doing their homework, or, you know, like printing their shoe, whatever it is during school hours. And so I think recognizing that and like having that open conversation, it's important. Like for me, it was a lot of like planning and organizing and trying to like work my meetings around, but then also at one point, just giving up to the fact that like I'm gonna be interrupted, and sometimes I'll go into meetings saying, okay, disclaimer guys, if I get interrupted, don't get offended, right? Like, you know, and there's times where, you know, I'll have my baby walk through into the room, and then I'll just pick her up, and it'll be just chaos, and I'll try to run the meeting, and I just have to keep going, right? Like I think for a lot of women, a lot of mothers, it's not an option to just stop and break, because then you would get no work done. And it's just sometimes, yes, it might be loud, it might not be as organized, or it might not look as professional, but it doesn't mean that we're any less dedicated or any less committed to the work that we're doing. But for sure, every single mother I've spoken to has had increased heightened, you know, stress, anxiety, pressure to make sure, like you said, is her mental state is completely there, but also making sure that everybody else is okay, right? You know, at times you're just like, I can't take this anymore, and like, and you know, you kind of need to put the breaks away, the Zoom calls away, everything kind of away. And for us personally, I know we're in Ontario, and for those that are listening that are Ontario, we're in our like third or fourth or fifth, I lost count of a lockdown. And so it's, again, this increased height of like, okay, that's it. We're done with this. It's been a year. We're still in this, you know, people just, you know, let's just go back to normal. And I think it's just, we've exhausted our patience mentally with it all. Right.
Yeah. And I think it's, you talk about kind of setting, boundaries in a way, and trying to set those boundaries for yourself. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. And I think that like we tend to also glamorize this concept of like entrepreneurship in a way that it's control over your schedule and control over your life. And like you have more control to do what you want when you want. And I think that it's almost the opposite. I think that when you're in business and entrepreneurship, like running a business means that you're even more expected to put like boundaries down for yourself. And it's even more difficult to do so, because if you're working for a large company, right, like that company has a certain set of policies and procedures they're operating by because they have to, or you know, they have an HR department that like sets those boundaries for you, even for the CEO. But you know, in an instance where you're a small business and you're wearing like 20 different hats, it's really difficult to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to put the work away and just sit by myself and like not do anything. I find it very difficult. I know you do, Nora, but I think it's also.
I would just preface by also saying, as entrepreneurs, when we first start out, for the most part, a lot of us run with very lean teams. And, you know, we're wearing, like Jackie said, you know, multiple hats. And so it's not like I can depend on the marketing department to get it done. Like at the same time, we're still chiming in. We do work, you know, with freelancers and contractors and at the same time. But it becomes difficult because, you know, sometimes we just can't just turn off, right? Because we might have to, we need to answer a question. We need to answer a supplier. We are also working with a team that's halfway across the world with like a 7 to like, I think in California, 9-hour time difference. And so we have to kind of wake up a little earlier or like stay up a little later to make sure that like we're taking that call and we're being present. I know Jackie and I have a 3-hour time difference, and there's so many, the number of times, like I can't even tell you now that we've been up at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning, or Jackie even like staying up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning taking calls because there's just no other way to schedule them, right? And you kind of have to like make a decision like, okay, I'm gonna do that, but I'll make a point. I know, Jackie, you do this very well. Like, okay, I'm gonna be up, you know, in the wee hours of the night or early hours of the day, but I'll make it a point to end earlier so that I give my body rest, or that I have that mental break and take that like fresh air.
I do want to also just because we do have some questions from the audience, so just I'll actually
guys, feel free to ask. We do have a question section. Feel free to like put all your questions there. We will leave some time, about 10 minutes, to answer everybody's question there. I know just Olive Tree posed a question. So I'll be sure to like get those questions running.
And I think,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, and I think also this is kind of in line with what we're talking about right now. So I think we should just
answer.
What's your biggest challenge running Sitti? How did you persevere? Nora,
I think we're still doing it. I don't think we've surpassed this mountain of like, I think we're still trying to like run it. I
don't think there's
yeah.
I agree. I don't think there's like a biggest challenge. Honestly, I think that, and we can talk to like individual challenges just for the sake of giving examples, but I will say at the end of the day, like running a business is a challenge in and of itself. It's there's a lot more. I think it's just one of those things that like, and I heard this actually, Three Ships. If you guys know Three Ships Beauty, they're one of our businesses featured on the blog, by the way, so you should check out that. But also they have a Mentor Mondays on Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. You should check it out, especially for like practical advice. We're the ones who just like, we riff on like our emotional like experience, but they have some really practical advice that comes out of those sessions. But one of the things they said, which was like, if you have the desire to start your own business, like know that it's going to be way more challenging than you ever imagined, but also like you have to keep pushing through it, because there's no way that it's going to be easy either way. I think the ease that comes out of it are those moments of achievement, and that's where you can like, you do have to take the time to sit in those achievements a little bit. Like I think one instance is that when we got accepted to one accelerator and one incubator at the same time, which was also a challenge in and of itself. By Michelle. But you know, the thing was, we got accepted to the Shalhoub incubator in Dubai, which was virtual, and the Ella accelerator. And so Nora and I were basically tag teaming the whole time between those two. And it was like, when it happened, we were like, I mean, I remember I was like elated. I was like, this is amazing. Like, there's going to be so much learning that is going to come from this, and so much growth.
So much work.
So much work. Like, I was just like, I mean, that talk about like AM meetings, like I was staying up till 3, you were getting up at 5, like Mimi was like breastfeeding while you were like off, you'd be like off camera with her, like literally at your chest, which was amazing. But also it was just like, you're literally and mentally drained at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, and to answer your question.
But I think to that point, like one of the things I think that's helped us, and I know in this past year, like Jackie mentioned, and I know it's helped Sitti a lot. It's helped me from like a professional development perspective. It's helped us like focus, strategize, really kind of better understand like, you know, our market and our positioning, and like, you know, our plans for like the next 6 months, the next 12 months, the next 5 years, and like really kind of put things like down on paper. But like Jackie said, it is a lot of work. What I would mention is like being part of those programs really provided this like pillar, like the mentorship that like normally we wouldn't have. Like we had candid conversations. I know particularly with Ella, which if you haven't checked them out, please do check them out. It is an accelerator program for women by
it's actually
university, funded by the Canadian government. And so we had, incredible kind of like mentorship, fractional executives, the program managers like Nicole. I don't know if she's ever going to watch this, but she was phenomenal. And I was telling Jackie what was so refreshing was like people that wanted to help you succeed and want nothing in return. And that was like something really, really refreshing, because obviously there's always something where like, you know, what do they want out of this, or what are they getting out of this to really want to help us? And some of these incubator programs and accelerator programs, you really kind of feel like there are those teams that come together to really want to make something out. Just Olive Tree. So it's the one I'm talking to is Ella. And then there's another one, Ella Accelerator. Yes.
Yeah. So by the way, everybody, we're going to have, and just so you know, we're going to put notes from today's conversation up on the blog later this week. So if you have any like burning questions that you forget, like we mentioned something, we'll make sure to have plenty of notes up there for you. Ella Accelerator, it's Ontario's first accelerator. I pulled this because it's Ontario's first accelerator focused on supporting women-led product and service-based businesses. And their mission is that they believe every woman entrepreneur should have access to the community, knowledge, and resources they need to scale their business. So again, check them out. Sorry, Nora, keep going.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, it was a 4-month program. We learned so much as part of that. And so my recommendation to, I would say, like women entrepreneurs is join programs or organizations that do this. Another one that is one of our, I would say we've actually just featured one of the brands with TST is the Founders Fund. And we are actually proud to be 2-time recipient winners of grants with the Founders Fund. If you haven't signed up to be a member, I think it's too late now for this year, but definitely for next year. And the beautiful thing about being part of a network like the Founders Fund is that, you know, you're part of this like Slack network. You get to ask other women-owned businesses like questions and feedback and really get opportunities. But what's really cool about the Founders Fund is you can have access to yearly grants that open up to just everybody and anybody. Yeah. And so you have the opportunity to like try to gain access to capital, which is something that like also women don't normally have access to, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that we always hear all the time is that women have a difficult time accessing capital. And part of the reason is that women entrepreneurs and just women generally, like, and this has been actually, if you go to SheEO, we're also, I mean, this was another exciting thing that happened this past year, and then we got accepted, and it was like so much work, but it was, I mean, we're so fortunate to be a part of this program. So SheEO, if you don't know, it's a global community of like radically generous women, and they're basically building this $1 billion fund. And that fund is meant to support women working on the world's to-do list, right? So SheEO has done all this research and kind of developed their model on the fact that women entrepreneurs use capital and seek out capital differently than male entrepreneurs. And part of the reason is just because like we're more risk averse. Mm-hmm. And that goes to so many reasons and speaks to so much of like the benefit of being a woman entrepreneur, right? Because we make our decisions with much more strategically, I think, in some ways. Maybe that's not like statistically or scientifically proven, but I believe it's true. But so, you know, the fact that there are all these funding mechanisms out there, for the most part, are developed from male run businesses, like a more quote unquote masculine mindset. But in reality, like we're over 50% of the small business owners in the world. So why is it that all these funding mechanisms are developed for men or for that quote unquote masculine mindset? So yeah, well, by the way, again, another thing we'll put in the show notes on our blog, but SheEO, definitely check them out. So we got accepted this spring, actually,
I should also caveat by saying we applied to SheEO last year, made it to semifinalist. We're not ready to join the program, but then reapplied again this year. with fingers crossed and, and thankfully we were selected this time around. And so this is just another reminder. And I know we're saying like a bunch of wins in this call today, but we've also had a lot of no's. We've applied to a crap load of stuff. And like, we've also had a lot of like, no, you're not ready, or like, we didn't make it, or whatever it is. And my commentary around this is like, really try to find opportunities to plug yourself in to things that make sense. And if you do get a rejection, apply again. And if you do get a rejection, apply again. And there's multiple other programs that I know I personally have applied to multiple times, continue to get rejections. And I'm like, all right, let me try one more time. Maybe like, I'm ready now, or maybe they'll consider us.
I just want to shout out really quick. Almond and Fig just joined us. They have an amazing, she has an amazing series up right now. April is for Arab food. You guys should check it out. Sorry, I just had to plug that. She didn't tell me to do that. I just really love the series. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that also like the concept of reapplying is important, but even more so, reapply with the intention to take lessons learned from the failure of getting accepted before. So for SheEO, for example, when we were semifinalists, but we didn't get accepted to the program ultimately, we were very conscious of why we didn't get accepted. We asked questions, they gave us feedback. And that was the other great thing about SheEO is they give you feedback at the end of the day to help you improve upon your business. And so like for us, one of the big pieces of feedback they gave us was to work more on our financials, and we did. And so, applying that feedback was super helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I think it just goes back to plugging yourself in with mentorship programs or, programs where you can seek out. As an entrepreneur, we're expected to literally wear a bunch of these hats. We're supposed to be, the bookkeeper and the manufacturing person and the designer and, the operations person and the CEO and, all these kind of different hats. And so, asking questions is like going to be a thing, and there's no such thing as a small question. And what I love, and I've seen this happen in our, like, even our Instagram community, or some people who like will send me questions like, oh, I love this packaging, where did you get it from? And I'm of the opinion, like, I know Jackie is too, like, there is an abundance in like what's available. And so there's no reason to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to share that with you because that's my trade secret. Unless it's like a secret recipe, but that's something else. But I think there's a lot of things that we can learn from other business owners or, kind of like-minded. And I think as women, we're more giving. There are any men in the call, don't get offended. But it's just true. Sorry.
I mean, I think that it's to our downfall, but it's also to our advantage, right? Like we were just talking earlier about, being as women, we're oftentimes the ones who people go to for emotional support in the family. And even though there's so much quote unquote like emotional labor involved with that, it's also something that proves to our benefit a lot of the time when we are part of these networks and these communities of other women. So like with Ella or with SheEO or whatever, the Founders Fund, like those were created, I think, in part because they were created by women who were so giving and were so generous.
But they also saw the challenge in the industry. They also saw a lack in the industry and were like, we got to change this. I know Sheena, when she started Founders Fund, she knew how hard it was for women to access capital. She knew that the advantage for women was not there. And so that was something that they posed. Same with SheEO. When, Vicky Saunders started SheEO, she got in a group with, I think it was like in her like living room, and she sat with a group of people, and was like brainstorming of like, how are we going to do this? Like if the inequity is there, more than anything, I think she recognized like the money is there. How can we get it in the hands of women?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And there is so much money out there. And, again, this this Instagram Live is like, we're throwing out a lot of resources out there that we really hope that you guys will take advantage of. But also we will put those on our blog because a lot of them are worth checking out if you are interested. Founders Fund, I mean, we were just talking about, right, like there were over 70% of women-owned businesses needed tax relief or some sort of relief through delayed and canceled payments because of the pandemic. Well, that's also like, it's also important to note that there are a lot of grant programs out there that you can take advantage of. We've taken advantage of, and you know, that's certainly important to recognize is like, as a women-owned business, you have access to certain grant opportunities that other businesses don't. So don't forget that. There are certain,
I think also particularly in Canada, there have been programs available for underrepresented founders and things like that. But sometimes it feels too big to start. And my suggestion is take it one step at a time. Start with joining a network if you already have not. Use that, even if it's like a Facebook page that like you can have a group of women, you know, business owners that you can ask questions. Like that could be a very good start. I know Sudaf, who's one of our advisory board members, she started something called the Muslim Women's Entrepreneur Club. I think Mia. I know that it's called Mia, and now I'm brutalizing the name. If Sudaf's watching, I apologize. But I know like at one point, like I joined as part of like the MIA program, and it was so refreshing to be in a group where like women can just ask like, oh, you know, what do you suggest for packaging and shipping, and like ask like these simple day-to-day operational questions that like basically pile up and become like little tiny bottlenecks. So just kind of going back to Olive Tree's question of saying like, sometimes it's not one big challenge. It's like a lot of little challenges that get in the way. And sometimes just asking the right person can really go there. So being in that network with a group of women that have probably experienced the exact same thing, and being able to just ask, oh, by the way, does anybody have any guidance on, you know, XYZ? And a lot of them, most of the time, will step up and be like, yeah, this is what I used. You know, maybe it will work for you. Right?
Yeah. I think also, you know, bye. Almond and Fig says bye. You know, I think also it's important to recognize there are all these communities out there, free to be a part of, by the way. And in addition to that, like communities specific to business owners.
But even sorry to cut you off, but even the non-free ones, because Founders Fund is not free. I know Mia was not free. My suggestion was, is it worth your business? Is the knowledge and being part of the network worth plugging in? And sometimes when you really calculate the cost across the year, it's not so significant. You realize you'll be spending more money on other things, and that maybe sometimes just joining that one network can go a long way, right? So some of these programs may not be free, may feel overwhelming. And this is why I said take very, very small steps. See what works for you, see what doesn't. You might join something and say, oh my God, this is amazing. But you might also join something that you're like, yeah, this didn't resonate with me as much. Or I didn't connect with the network or the community as much. And that's okay. There's just a plethora of opportunities that are available there.
Yeah. And I think in addition to the business focused opportunities, go for some of these groups, like women's groups that aren't business focused, but are specific to who you are as an individual, because like right now more than ever, it's important to find support out there. If you can't find it in your physical, like in-person communities, look for it in other places. You know, I know that a lot of people are frankly like looking out for opportunities to get therapy now. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. You just have to like, Google is your best friend. Everybody says that. I'm part of a group it has nothing to do with entrepreneurship, but it's called Wags of Psy, and it's like women and girlfriends of spinal cord injuries. So like my husband has a spinal cord injury. Like there are a lot of like unique experiences at home that we go through, especially in the pandemic. And it's all these women who have this shared experience. And that's been something that's really helped me kind of throughout the past year. I think it's important that as much as we experience challenges within business, we also have to acknowledge and accept the fact that we're human beings at the end of the day. We have lives outside of our business, and it's important to address the needs of that life. So just, keep that in mind as well. Nora, I don't know if you know of any like groups that you can suggest or like talk about that you've been a part of outside of business specific groups, but like some sort of support network, or I don't know, through your mosque or something.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I'm just plugged into different things, but like even like a girlfriend's WhatsApp group, and like, and I'm simplifying it so much, or even like a Facebook group where you can like go and reflect on some things, or like shared experiences can go a long way. And then, yeah, I mean, speaking of wellness is something that we most recently started to focus on. I know it's not something that we yes to mental health support, the POC therapist. If you do not follow her, please do follow her immediately. She is just phenomenal, has amazing advice. I'd love, by the way, while she's here, I'm putting her on the spot. We're going to do a live with you to talk about dealing with mental health in the midst of everything. And so we'd love to host you on our next Sips with Sitti potentially. I'm putting her on the spot while she's watching. So, but yeah, I mean, mental health has been something that not just for us, but also for our team members halfway across the world. And knowing that we can't physically be there to support them as like the leadership team, we have acknowledged and seen, like, even they have like some of the women that we, the artisans that we work with, the community members that we work with, were like, we just need to get out. Like, this pandemic has had a big toll on us. And so we have started, monthly wellness check-ins with our team. We're starting to implement like more like group focused, obviously virtual calls to make sure everybody kind of has that opportunity to chat with us when they need to. But also now started to think of like, putting together wellness retreats and potentially like, maybe yoga opportunities. And they may be like small little things, but it's the small little things that help take, the pressures off, like the piling mountain or that like emotional labor that like as women we're experiencing all the time, or as people in general during this pandemic have experienced for a long time. So I know we do. I'm just looking at the time. I know we had some questions set aside. I don't know if you wanted to go through them.
We did. So we did address a couple of the questions already, actually. One was like, what was one piece of advice you'd give to a female entrepreneur who wants to start her own business? So maybe we could get to that one really quickly. And then the other question, which we'll answer more in the show notes later, but what are some resources out there specifically for women to access? That kind of address the challenges and needs of specific women entrepreneurs. So we touched on a lot of those. We'll put those in the show notes. But Nora, do you want to give really quickly like one piece of advice to a female entrepreneur who wants to start her own business?
So I think, and this is a little biased of me, but I think as women, having the network is 100% important. So like surround yourself with the right network that's going to help you reach your goals and create a strategy for yourself. I know, and this is something that we had like an offline conversation, Jackie and I, but when we first started Sitti, and for the longest time, like a lot of our family, and maybe even some today that, and if you watch this, I'm talking about you, and where like they'll say like, oh, when are you gonna, get a real job? And like, and I know for me that like, I'm just like, but this is what I do. And this is my job, kind of, right? And so, and it's been a challenge. Like, I know I quit my full-time job because it gave me immense anxiety, and like, I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I was getting anxiety attacks. I don't know if I've talked about it, but like, I was just at a very peak level of stress that I made a decision that I was not going to let that impact me anymore. And that I couldn't work for an organization that didn't drive my passion or fuel me. And that like, I really wanted to put my all into helping Sitti grow. And really just because like, I know we have a very deep, maybe emotional commitment with the refugee camp. And like, we're so committed to like and I would say like I really believe in the community and the opportunities that can come out of there. And so for me, I knew that that wasn't going to happen when I was, you know, working after hours, when I put my kids to sleep at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Like that wasn't going to happen. We weren't going to be able to make it or push or strive forward. And I almost felt this sense of responsibility that like there were women in the refugee camp that depended on us to make this work in a way. And so there was this, I don't want to say this, like it was a little bit like, you know, and I still feel it on a day-to-day basis when days where it is very difficult. There are days when I'm like, this is really hard. I want to quit, but it's not about me. It's not about
me. I think it's important to explain as well that like the way that we feel this connection with the community in Jerash camp, you know, I think a lot of people talk about like responsibility to this community or to that community. I think, you know, and I can't speak for other people. I think for us, it's always been about this, frankly, a sisterhood, and I can't explain it any other way. But we had an interview on the Millie podcast actually last year.
Which
and I remember you should all go listen to it. Yes, Millie podcast, very good. Like so slept on. It's such a slept on podcast, by the way, because honestly, she should have like millions of listeners. Those conversations are really interesting. But you know, one of the questions, or I forget the question, but you know, one thing I always like thought to myself, and it was the first time I said it out loud, it's like, you can't help who you love. And I think that was really the truth with us. And you know, Nora and I came to the community in Jerash for different reasons, but we both kind of came to a point in that community where we literally would like feel like we were sitting next to our sister, and it was such a close bond that, you know, I think some people do go into communities. I don't want to negate the fact that there are companies that go into communities out there that are marginalized and frankly take advantage of them, you know, kind of exploit them, use this whole concept of like, we're the white saviors or saviors coming in and saving you. Like that wasn't, and I want to clarify, like, that's not the case in our situation. Like, and I think what Nora you're speaking to as well is this fact that like we have a responsibility to them because it's very much a family like connection, right? Like just as much as we feel a responsibility to our sister or our parents or our children, like we feel that responsibility to this community because they are our community. So, you know, I don't know how many other people, I think a lot of people out there can speak to that feeling. I don't know how easy it is to verbalize it, but, you know, we've definitely been through moments where it's like, we feel like the floor is being pulled out from underneath us. Like we can't, like we're literally keeping our head above water. And I think at the end of the day, though, you have this immense love and devotion. And I mean, maybe this is going against the rules of business where it's like, you need to separate your business life from your personal life. And I'm like, that's total bullshit.
And you know what? That's been 100% clear. And there was one thing my mentor was like shared with me. And it was, I know we as a social enterprise have 1 foot in development and 1 foot, like we wear a development hat and our business hat. And so yes, we're working with very marginalized communities. But at the same time, we have to run a business, right? Like, you know, we're thinking of logistics and exporting and importing and manufacturing and packaging and all that. Like that takes away from, let's say, like the development side, making sure that we're empowering and employing refugee communities or marginalized communities from that front. But one thing she said to me is, you're not going to be able to help them on that, like wearing that hat, if you don't keep the company afloat on this side. And so sometimes we have to make very harsh business decisions, if we may call them, to really kind of strategically focus on, we can't save the world if we can't save ourselves in a way. And like, we have to make sure that like we get things sorted from that front. And then when we empower ourselves, and what I mean by that is like, you know, and this is like as a business example of like, when we as a business grow, then we make commitments that as through our growth, then we contribute directly towards like that line, but we take them along with us in that journey. And so that was something that like really struck me, because it was always a balance of like, you know, I know when the pandemic hit, we were like, you know, let's do a big fundraiser. And while that was incredible, and we're so glad that we did a fundraiser and raised a bunch of money and helped a bunch of families, it also wasn't part of our, like, you know, I was actually criticized, saying like, this isn't part of your business goals. And yes, like kudos for you to raise money for a fundraiser, but you should have focused more on building your business, because then that's part of like, if you're growing as a business, then you can also make sure that you're contributing back. So there's different perspectives, and like, I'm sure there's going to be different opinions with this, but it's also really important to be super focused. And there's so many times, ask Jackie, where like we will pivot and take like a million turns, and even Jackie would be like, okay, Nora, focus, like what do we need? Right? Like, you know,
We just did this yesterday. It just happened yesterday.
No, for sure, because there will be times where opportunities will come your way, or like you will bump into something and you're like, is this really for me? Do I want to plug into this? Does this make sense for us to, you know, pitch? And I don't like saying no. I always try to like put ourselves in whatever, you know, bucket I can fill. But it's also very important to recognize like, this is too much for us. Let's take a step back. This doesn't make sense at the moment. Let's, you know, put it in the back burner and come to it in a couple of months. Maybe at that point we'll be ready. So
this hour has flown by. I every time this happens, and I love it and I hate it, but we have like 3 minutes left. So I want us to get to our special announcement. This is super exciting. Wait, we have a drum roll.
Oh.
Okay. Sitti is launching
A quarterly subscription box.
Yay!
So we are not telling you all the information. We do have about like a couple of minutes left on this, but we want you to stay tuned. If you visit our website, there's an opportunity on our front page, I think, to sign up and be in the know, like be part of the list. So go to our website, you'll see a list. We also are going to reveal like the partners that we've you may or may not know, but with the partners that we have partnered with for this box, it's going to be something amazing. Like I can't even tell you the months that we've been working on this. And for those that have helped us and kind of gotten to this point, like I'm still stressing out about the little details. This is, I would say, one of the biggest things we've done as a business. And I remember when we first started doing it, our purpose to do it was really about creating and thinking, like we really kind of put our strategic hats on of saying, how can we create recurring, sustainable sustainable employment to the women that we work with, without having that wishy-washy business opportunity of saying like, you know, what if we don't make a sale? And so the whole point of the subscription box is to really create a community that is committed to helping support like our mission and what we really want to push forward. But also you get a chance to get incredible products that we are so excited to reveal.
So there are going to be a lot of surprise products in there. It's a surprise subscription box, but we will be revealing our partners in the box soon. So stay tuned, sign up on our homepage. We're going to get kicked off soon.
Yes. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Jackie, next time I'm going to have my cup of coffee and we're going to dive a little deeper. We probably would have launched this by then. Please stay tuned on our social, kind of set up that notification so you kind of hear more. Thank you guys for joining us and for listening to us rant away and talk away. It's always a pleasure jumping on here. Lots of love. Thank you.
And quickly sign up on the homepage and you will get a chance to win an annual subscription. Don't forget, there's a chance to win. You can win something too.
Yeah, it's a big win, guys. You're gonna want it. I can't even. I want to say more, but I can't right now. Yeah. So we can't wait for you to see it, to learn more about it, to see the things that we have prepared. Thank you so much for everybody that's joined us. Have a wonderful, wonderful Thursday. See you for Sips with Sitti next one. Take care.
Okay. Bye, guys.